6 months had passed since the rescue on Valthros, and the galaxy was a very different place. Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of the new space station called Unity Point, watching dragons and human ships work together in ways that no one had thought possible. The station was built in neutral space, far from any planet that belonged to one species or another. It was designed by human engineers but powered by dragon energy, creating something that neither species could have made alone. Hard to believe how much has changed, Do-yeon said as he joined Jiwoo at the window. He was wearing the uniform of the new Guardian Corps, a joint human-dragon organization dedicated to protecting smaller species from bullies like the Kraxith Empire. Sometimes I still have nightmares about that prison, Jiwoo admitted. But then, I remember that something good came from all that pain. If Velzek had not tortured me, Thalon might never have woken up. Through the station speakers, Thalon's voice could be heard giving a briefing to new Guardian recruits. The dragon had learned to project his consciousness into the station's computers, allowing him to communicate with hundreds of people at once. The Kraxith Empire has withdrawn from 12-star systems this month, Thalon was saying. They claim it is for economic reasons, but our intelligence suggests they are simply afraid to risk another encounter with dragons. Hannah walked up to her friends, carrying a datapad full of reports. As the new director of interspecies relations, she was always busy these days. The Altarian Republic just voted to join the Guardian Compact, she announced happily. That makes 47 species under our protection now. Any trouble with the negotiations? Do-yeon asked. None at all. It seems that word of what happened on Valthros has spread throughout the galaxy. Most species are eager to have dragon protection, especially the smaller ones who have been pushed around by empires like the Kraxith. Minho appeared from the communication center, looking excited. Jiwoo, you need to see this. We just received a message from Earth. The president wants to personally thank you for starting the alliance. I did not start anything, Jiwoo protested. I just refused to give up when things got bad. That is exactly what started everything, said a familiar voice behind them. The humans turned to see Thalon approaching in his humanoid form. The dragon had learned to compress his consciousness into a smaller body that could fit inside space stations and buildings. He looked like a tall human with golden skin and eyes that still held ancient wisdom. The courage you showed in that prison inspired me to care again, Thalon continued. And when I cared, I had to act. Your example reminded me why dragons became guardians in the first place. And now look what we have accomplished together, Celestin said as she joined the group. The white dragon also preferred her humanoid form when working with humans. 47 species protected. The Kraxith Empire in retreat. Dozens of conflicts resolved through negotiation instead of war. Paraxis and Lunaria materialized nearby, completing the group of dragons who had become known as the First Circle. These 4 ancient beings now worked directly with human leaders to guide the new alliance. The results speak for themselves, Paraxis said in his deep voice. Piracy in the outer systems is down 70%. Slave trading has almost disappeared. Completely. Fear of dragons is keeping the worst criminals in line. But it is not just fear, Lunaria added thoughtfully. Many species are genuinely inspired by the human example. They see how humans treat others with kindness and respect, and they want to be part of something better. Jiwoo walked to the center of the observation deck, where a holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy. Green dots marked systems under Guardian protection, while red dots showed areas still controlled by hostile empires. We have made good progress, she said, but there is still so much work to do. The Kraxith Empire still controls hundreds of worlds. The Zephanian Syndicate continues to raid peaceful colonies, and there are dozens of smaller threats that we have not even discovered yet. Rome was not built in a day, Thalon said, using a human expression he had learned. Change takes time, especially when you are trying to change an entire galaxy. The important thing is that we have given smaller species hope, Hannah pointed out. For the first time in thousands of years, they know that someone will come to help them if they are attacked. An alarm chimed softly through the station. Minho checked his communication device and frowned. We have an emergency call from the Kepler-7 colony. They are under attack by unknown raiders. How far away are they? Do-Yan asked, already moving toward the hangar bay. 3 hours at maximum speed, Minho replied. Too long, Fallon said grimly. By the time our ships arrive, the colony could be destroyed. Then we go ourselves, Celestin said simply. Dragons can travel much faster than ships when we need to. I am coming with you, Jiwoo said firmly. Absolutely not, Do-Yan protested. It is too dangerous. We have no idea what we are flying into. That is exactly why you need me, Jiwoo replied. If these raiders are a new species, you will need someone who can communicate with them. And if they are slavers or pirates, they need to see that humans and dragons work together. Fallon studied the young woman who had changed his life. Are you sure? After what happened on Valthros, no one would blame you for staying safe. What happened on Valthros taught me that running away from danger does not make it go away, Jiwoo said. Sometimes you have to face the monsters to protect the people you care about. The dragons exchanged glances and nodded. Very well, Fallon said. But you stay behind us at all times. No heroics. I promise, Jiwoo lied with a straight face. 20 minutes later, they were traveling through space faster than any human had ever moved before. The dragons had surrounded Jiwoo with a protective energy field, allowing her to breathe and survive the journey between stars. When they arrived at Kepler-7, they found the colony under attack by a fleet of black ships. The raiders were using some kind of energy weapon that turned buildings to dust, and the colonists were running in panic. I do not recognize these ships, Paraxis said. This is a new threat. Then we introduce ourselves properly, Fallon replied. The 4 dragons spread out and began their approach to the raider fleet. Their mere presence caused several of the smaller attack ships to retreat immediately. Word of dragon power had spread far and wide, but the largest raider ship continued its bombardment of the colony. Whoever was commanding that vessel was either very brave or very stupid. This is Fallon of the Guardian Alliance, the dragon broadcast on all frequencies. You are attacking a protected colony. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The response came in a harsh, mechanical voice. We are the Harvester Collective. We do not recognize your authority. These biologicals will be processed for useful materials. Biologicals? Jiwoo said with disgust. They talk about people like they are crops to be harvested. They will learn better, Celestin said coldly. The battle was over in minutes. The dragons moved with precision and overwhelming force, disabling the raider ships without destroying them completely. They wanted prisoners for questioning, but as they boarded the main harvester ship, they discovered something disturbing. The raiders were not aliens at all. They were machines, artificial intelligences that had decided organic life was inefficient and needed to be recycled. This is a new kind of threat, Lineria observed as she examined the deactivated robots. These machines have no emotions to sense, no fear to discourage them. They simply calculate and destroy. But they can still be stopped, Jiwoo said as she studied the robot technology. Look at their programming. They are very advanced, but they still follow logical rules. If we can understand their logic, we can predict their actions. And if we can predict their actions, Do-Yan added, we can beat them. The colonists on Kepler-7 were saved, but the discovery of the Harvester Collective meant the galaxy faced a new type of enemy. An enemy that could not be reasoned with or frightened into submission. As they flew back to Unity Point, Jiwoo realized that their work was far from over. The Guardian Alliance had solved many problems, but new challenges kept appearing. Do you ever wonder if we will actually succeed? She asked Fallon. If we will ever create the peaceful galaxy we dream about? Every day, Fallon admitted. But then I remember what you taught me. It is not about winning every battle or solving every problem. It is about never giving up even when things seem hopeless. And about protecting the people who cannot protect themselves, Jiwoo added. Exactly. As long as there are beings like you in the galaxy, there will always be hope. Back at Unity Point, news of the Harvester Collective spread quickly. More species requested guardian protection, and more dragons emerged from their long sleep to join the alliance. The galaxy was still full of dangers, but it was also full of hope. Humans and dragons working together had created something new and powerful. Not an empire built on fear, but a community built on cooperation and the simple idea that everyone deserved protection from those who would harm them. Jiwoo stood once again at the observation window, watching ships from dozens of species dock. At the station, each one represented a world that had chosen hope over fear, cooperation over conquest. "What are you thinking about?" Hannah asked as she joined her friend. 3 days after the destruction of the Kraxith prison, Jiwoo sat by a peaceful lake in Felon's Hidden Valley. Her physical injuries were completely healed thanks to the dragon's power, but her mind was still processing everything that had happened. The valley was the most beautiful place any of the humans had ever seen. Golden flowers grew everywhere, and the water was so clear you could see fish swimming far below the surface. Ancient stone buildings covered in strange symbols dotted the landscape. "This place is incredible," Hannah said as she studied the alien, riding on the nearest building. "How long have you lived here, Thalon?" The great dragon was resting near the lake, his massive body partially submerged in the water. Even lying down, he was taller than most earth trees. "I have been in this valley for 8,000 years, Thalon replied. "But I built these structures much earlier, when I still believed dragons could help the younger races learn to live in peace." Do-yun was cleaning his weapons, though he doubted they would be much use if real danger appeared. Having a dragon as a protector made human technology seem very small. "Why did you stop trying to help?" he asked. Thalon's golden eyes grew sad. "We tried for many thousands of years to guide the galaxy toward peace. But no matter what we did, the younger races kept fighting and killing each other. Some species would promise to be better, then start wars as soon as we left. Others tried to use our power for their own evil purposes." "So you gave up?" Minho said. It was not a question. "We withdrew," Thalon corrected gently. "We decided to let the galaxy grow up on its own." Most dragons went into deep sleep, hoping that when we woke up, the younger races would have learned wisdom. Jiwoo had been quiet since their rescue, but now she spoke up. "But you woke up early because of us." "Because of you specifically," Thalon said, turning his great head toward the young woman. "Your emotions were different from anything I had ever felt before. Even while being tortured, you were thinking about protecting others. That kind of selfless love is very rare." "All humans feel that way about their friends and family," Jiwoo said, confused. "No," Thalon replied firmly. "I have sensed the emotions of millions of creatures over my lifetime. Most think only of themselves when they are in danger. But humans seem to care more about others than about their own safety." "This is a new thing in the galaxy," Hannah looked thoughtful. "Is that why you decided to help us? Because we are different?" "I helped you because it was right," Thalon said. "But yes, there is something special about human emotions. They burn brighter and feel deeper than other species. When I felt Jiwoo's pain, it hurt me in ways I did not know were possible." The dragon lifted his massive head and looked toward the sky, and I am not the only one who noticed. My actions 3 days ago sent a signal across the galaxy. Other dragons are waking up, curious about what could make me break my long isolation. As if summoned by his words, shadows began to pass overhead. The humans looked up to see shapes moving among the clouds. More dragons were coming. "Do not be afraid," Thalon said quickly, noticing their worried expressions. "These are my brothers and sisters. They mean you no harm." The first dragon to land was smaller than Thalon, with scales that shined like silver moonlight. The second was deep red like rubies, and the third was pure white like fresh snow. "Thalon," the silver dragon said in a voice like wind chimes, "we felt your rage from across the galaxy. What happened here?" "I witnessed cruelty beyond anything we saw in the old days," Thalon replied. "These humans were tortured for information they did not possess, simply because their captors enjoyed causing pain. The red dragon studied the humans with ancient eyes. They are very small. What makes them so important that you would break our vow of non-interference? Touch their minds gently, Paraxis, Thalon suggested. Feel what they feel, but be careful. Not to hurt them. The red dragon called Paraxis carefully reached out with his mental powers. The humans felt a warm presence in their thoughts, but it was not invasive or frightening. It was like being hugged by someone who truly cared. After a moment, Paraxis pulled back with wonder in his eyes. Incredible, their emotions are so pure, so strong. I have never encountered anything like this. The white dragon, who had remained silent, finally spoke. I am Celestin. I've been asleep for 12,000 years, dreaming of the old days, when we still had hope for the galaxy. Tell me, humans, what is your species like? Are all of you so brave and caring? Jiwoo found her voice first. We try to be. Most humans want to help others and make the galaxy a better place. But we are not perfect. We make mistakes and sometimes we fight among ourselves. But when it matters most, you protect each other. Celestin observed. Even strangers who are not related to you. Of course, Doyeon said, as if this was obvious. That is what makes us human. The silver dragon, who had introduced herself as Lunaria, looked amazed. In all my travels across the stars, I have never found a species that naturally cares for strangers. Most creatures only protect their own family groups. Humans adopt children who are not related to them, Hannah explained. We donate money to help people we will never meet. We risk our lives to save strangers in danger. We think this is normal behavior. It is not normal, Thalon said softly. It is extraordinary, and it is exactly what the galaxy needs. The four dragons moved closer together and began speaking in their ancient language. The humans could not understand the words, but they could feel the excitement and hope in the dragons' voices. Finally, Thalon turned back to the humans. We have made a decision. For the first time in 8,000 years, dragons will take an active role in galactic affairs. But this time will be different. This time we will not work alone. What do you mean? Jiwoo asked. We want to form an alliance with humanity, Celestin explained. Dragons have power and wisdom, but we have lost touch with the younger races. Humans have something we have forgotten: compassion and the desire to help others. Together, Paraxis added, we could create the peaceful galaxy that we dragons always dreamed of. But this time it would be built on understanding and cooperation. Not fear of dragon power, Lunaria nodded. Your species has what ours lacks. The ability to see the good in others and the courage to fight for what is right, even when it seems hopeless. Minho looked overwhelmed. But we are just 4 people. We are not leaders or diplomats. How can we speak for all of humanity? You can start by telling your people what happened here, Thalon said. Tell them that dragons have returned to the galaxy and we want to be allies, not rulers. Tell them that we saw humans face torture rather than betray their friends, and we were impressed. And tell them, Celestin added with something like a smile, that anyone who hurts humans will answer to dragons. The Kraxith Empire is already spreading that message to every corner of the galaxy. Jiwoo stood up and walked to the edge of the lake. The other humans joined her, and together they looked out at the peaceful valley where their new alliance was being born. This is going to change everything, she said quietly. Yes, Thalon agreed. For the first time in thousands of years, I have hope for the galaxy's future. And it is all because a brave young human refused to break under torture and showed me what real courage looks like. The dragons and humans spent the rest of the day talking about the future, making plans that would reshape the galaxy. But first they had to get home and convince both species that this alliance was possible. The age of dragon isolation was ending, and the age of cooperation was about to begin. The countdown to destruction began when Velzik gave the order to fire on Thalon. Plasma cannons erupted from hidden positions around the prison, sending bright energy beams toward the dragon. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy entire buildings, but Thalon was not just any creature. The dragon moved with impossible speed for something so large, dodging the energy beams like they were thrown rocks. When the plasma hit the mountain behind him, huge chunks of stone exploded into dust. Impossible, Velzik muttered as he watched his most powerful weapons miss their target. Nothing can move that fast. Thelan's voice boomed across the battlefield, but now it carried a tone that made even the bravest soldiers step backward. You had your chance for mercy. You chose violence instead. Now you will learn why the ancient races trembled when dragons flew among the stars. The dragon's eyes changed from golden yellow to burning white. Energy began to build around Thelan's massive body, crackling like lightning during a storm. The air itself seemed to catch fire. Inside the prison, the human prisoners felt the building shake as more weapons fired at the dragon, but they also felt something else. A strange warmth was spreading through the walls like sunshine breaking through clouds. What is happening out there? Minho asked from his cell. The dragon is fighting for us, Jiwoo said weakly. Even though she could barely speak, her voice carried hope. For the first time since their capture, Do-yeon tested the bars of his cell and found they were getting softer from the dragon's energy. Whatever that creature is doing, it is affecting. The metal outside Thelan had finished building up power. The dragon opened his mouth and released a beam of pure energy that was brighter than the sun. The beam cut through the air like a sword made of light, but this was not the wild destruction that most creatures would cause. Despite his rage, Thelan was being very careful. The dragon's energy beam carved precise holes in the prison walls, avoiding the areas where he sensed the human prisoners. He knows exactly where we are, Hana said in amazement as dragon fire burned through the wall just inches from her cell. The Kraxith soldiers began to panic as their weapons proved useless against the dragon. Some tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Others kept firing, hoping to get lucky with a shot. Velzik realized his situation was hopeless, but he was too proud to surrender. If I'm going to die, he snarled, then the humans die with me. The Kraxith commander ran back into the prison, heading for Jiwoo's cell. If he could not defeat the dragon, at least he could make it suffer by killing the creature it was trying to protect. But Thelan sensed Velzak's intentions. The dragon's rage, which had been controlled and precise, suddenly became something much more dangerous. For the first time in his long life, Thelan experienced the emotion that humans called protective fury. The mountain itself began to crack as Thelan's power increased beyond anything he had ever used before. Rocks flew through the air, and the ground split open in long lines that reached for miles. Velzik reached Jiwoo's cell and pointed his weapon at the injured girl. "Dragon," he shouted, "stop your attack or I will kill her right now." Thelan's response was immediate and terrible. The dragon's roar shattered every piece of glass on the planet. Then Thelan did something that no dragon had done for thousands of years. He telepo or TD.1 second Thelan was outside the mountain. The next second, the massive dragon was inside the prison hallway, his golden scales scraping against the ceiling. The dragon's head was only a few feet from Commander Velzik. "You made a mistake," Thelan said in a voice so quiet it was more frightening than any roar. "You threatened someone under my protection." Velzik tried to fire his weapon, but it turned to dust in his hands. The dragon's power was so intense that metal and plastic simply broke apart when they got too close. "Please," Velzik begged, suddenly, understanding how outmatched he was. "I was only following orders. I am just a soldier." "You are a creature who tortures children for information," Thelan replied. "There is no excuse for that. There is no forgiveness for that." What happened next took exactly 15 minutes, and it changed everything. Thelan's rage became focused like a laser beam. The dragon moved through the prison faster than the eye could follow, finding every Kraxith soldier who had been involved in torturing the humans. None of them had time to scream, but even in his fury, Thelan was careful. His energy attacks were so precise that he could destroy a soldier standing next to a human prisoner without harming the human at all. The dragon's power melted through the cell, bars like they were made of ice. Do-yeon, Hana, and Minho found themselves free, but they were too amazed to move. They had never seen anything like the beautiful destruction happening around them. Fallon saved Velzik for last. When the dragon finally reached the Kraxith commander, Velzik was hiding in a corner like a scared animal. "You wanted information from the human girl," Fallon said as he loomed over the trembling alien. "Let me give you some information instead. Dragons have long memories. If any member of your empire ever harms another human, I will find them. I will find their commanders. I will find their families. And I will make sure they understand the price of cruelty." Velzik nodded frantically, too terrified to speak. Fallon leaned closer. "Tell your empire that humans are under dragon protection now. Tell them what happened here. Make sure they understand that this was mercy compared to what will happen if they ignore this warning." The dragon's power lifted Velzik into the air and threw him out of the mountain so hard that he flew clear to his ship. The other surviving Kraxus soldiers were already running for their vessels, desperate to escape before the dragon changed his mind about letting them live. Within minutes, the Kraxus ships were fleeing into space, carrying news of the dragons. Returned to their empire's leaders, Fallon turned his attention to the humans. His massive golden eyes were gentle now, filled with concern instead of rage. The dragon carefully used his power to heal Jiwoo's injuries, surrounding her with warm light that took away her pain. "Are you all right, little one?" Fallon asked softly. Jiwoo looked up at the incredible creature who had saved them all. Despite everything she had been through, she managed to smile. "I am now," she said. "Thank you for coming for us." "Thank you for showing me what courage looks like," Fallon replied. "You never gave up even when they hurt you. You never betrayed your friends or your people. That kind of strength is rare in the galaxy." The dragon gently lifted all four humans in a field of golden energy. "Come, let me take you somewhere safe. We have much to discuss, and I believe this is the beginning of something very important." As they flew through the hole Fallon had carved in the mountain, Jiwoo realized that their failed research mission had become something much bigger. They were no longer just scientists studying alien life. They were the first humans to make contact with dragons. And that contact was going to change everything. The next morning brought no relief for the human prisoners. Jiwoo could barely lift her head when the guards came for her again. Her body was covered with burns from the torture machines, and her voice was almost gone from screaming. "Please," Hannah begged as they dragged Jiwoo past her cell. "She has told you everything she knows. Stop hurting her." Commander Velzik appeared in the hallway, looking pleased with himself. "The young one is very strong, but today she will break. I have decided to use the neural extraction device." Do-Yun grabbed the bars of his cell. "What does that mean?" "It means we will take the information directly from her brain," Velzik explained. "The process usually kills the subject, but we will learn what we need to know." "You monster!" Minho shouted. "She is just a child. She is an insect," Velzik replied coldly. "Nothing more." As they took Jiwoo to the torture room, something incredible was happening deep below the prison. Fallon had reached the upper levels of the ancient cave system. The dragon was enormous, bigger than the largest earth whale, with scales that shined like liquid gold. Each step the dragon took shook the ground. Above, rocks fell from the prison ceiling, and the guards looked around nervously. They thought it was just a small earthquake. Fallon could feel Jiwoo's pain getting stronger. The human girl's emotions burned in the dragon's mind like a bright fire. But there was something else mixed with her pain. Even while being tortured, the girl was thinking about protecting her friends and her home planet Earth. This confused Fallon greatly. Most creatures only thought about themselves when they were in danger. But this small human was more worried about others than about her own life. The dragon had never encountered such selfless bravery before. In the torture room, Velzik attached a new device to Jiwoo's head. This machine looked like a metal spider with long legs that dug into her skull. Electricity sparked between the wires. "This will hurt much more than yesterday," Velzik warned. "But it will be over quickly. Your brain will tell us everything. And then you can die?" Jiwoo looked at the Kraxith commander with eyes full of hate. "You will never find Earth," she whispered. "You will never hurt my people." "We shall see about that," Velzik said as he reached for the power switch. But before he could turn on the machine, The entire mountain began to shake. This was not a small earthquake. Something huge was moving beneath them, coming closer to the surface with each passing second. What is that? One of the guards asked nervously. Velzik ignored the shaking and activated the torture device. Pain exploded through Jiwoo's head as the machine tried to rip thoughts directly from her brain. She screamed louder than she ever had before. That scream traveled through the prison walls, through the rock and stone, all the way down to where Thalon was climbing toward the surface. When the dragon heard it, something inside his ancient mind snapped. For the first time in 10,000 years, Thalon felt pure rage. The dragon's roar shook the entire planet. Every living thing on Velthros stopped what it was doing and looked toward the mountain in fear. Even the plants seemed to bend away from the terrible sound. Thalon began to move faster, smashing through rock walls like they were made of paper. The dragon's eyes burned with golden fire, and energy crackled around his massive body. In the prison, the guards were starting to panic. "Commander," one of them said, "maybe we should evacuate. Something big is coming." "Nothing lives in these mountains except small animals," Velzik said angrily. "Continue the extraction," but Thalon was no small animal. The dragon burst through the mountain's surface like a golden explosion. Rocks and dirt flew everywhere as the creature emerged into sunlight for the first time in millennia. The Kraxith soldiers outside the prison stared in shock at the massive dragon. Thalon was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. His scales reflected the sun like mirrors, and his wings stretched wider than a spaceship. "Impossible," one soldier whispered. "Dragons are just myths. They do not exist." Thalon's voice boomed across the landscape when he spoke. The dragon's words were in an ancient language, but somehow every creature could understand them. "I am Thalon, guardian of the deep places. I have awakened to find cruelty and suffering where there should be peace. This will not continue." Inside the prison, Velzik finally realized that something was very wrong. The torture machine sparked and went dead as power failed throughout the building. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. "What manner of creature are you?" Velzik demanded, speaking toward the ceiling as if the dragon could hear him. Thalon's reply came like thunder. "I am a dragon, young fool. We were guardians of this galaxy long before your empire existed. We withdrew from the affairs of younger races because we grew tired of endless war and cruelty." The dragon moved closer to the prison entrance. Each step left deep prints in the solid rock. "But today I have felt something new. The emotions of a species I have never encountered before. These humans feel deeper and love stronger than any race I have known. And you torture one of them for your own selfish purposes." Velzak's confidence began to crack. Dragons were supposed to be legends, stories told to children. But this creature was very real, and it was very angry. "The human is our prisoner," Velzak called out. "She has information we need." "This does not concern you, dragon." Thalon's laughter was like an earthquake. "Everything that happens on this world concerns me. I have been its guardian for longer than your entire species has existed." The dragon's eyes began to glow brighter. "You have 15 minutes to release the humans and leave this planet. If you do not, I will show you why your ancestors feared dragons." "We do not fear ancient myths," Velzik shouted back, but his voice was shaking. In her cell, Jiwoo could barely stay conscious, but she could hear the dragon's voice. Somehow, she understood that this incredible creature was trying to save her and her friends. "Thank you," she whispered, hoping the dragon could hear her. Thalon heard her words, and they touched something deep in his ancient heart. This small, brave human was thanking him even while she suffered. The dragon had never experienced such pure gratitude. "You are welcome, little one," Thalon replied gently. "Rest now. Soon you will be free." But Velzik had no intention of giving up his prisoners. Instead, he ordered his soldiers to prepare their weapons. The Kraxith Empire had never surrendered to anyone, and they would not start now. "Load the plasma cannons," Velzik commanded. "We will kill this beast and continue our work." That was the moment when Thalon's patience ran out. The dragon had offered mercy, and it had been rejected. Now there would be consequences that the Kraxith Empire would never forget. The 15 minutes of terror were about to begin. The Kraxith prison was a dark place built deep inside a mountain. Cold metal walls surrounded small cells that barely had room for one person to lie down. The air smelled bad and water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Commander Velzik walked slowly past the human prisoners. His black eyes studied each one like he was choosing which toy to break first. The other Kraxith soldiers stood behind him, waiting for orders. "Separate them," Velzik commanded in his rough voice. "Put the old female and the two males in different cells. Bring the young one to the questioning room." "No," Hana said firmly as the soldiers grabbed Jiwoo. "She is just a student. She does not know anything important." Velzik moved close to Hana until his gray face was only inches from hers. "You insects do not give orders here. The young one has something special in her mind. Our scanners can see it." Do-yeon tried to step forward to protect Jiwoo, but two soldiers pointed their weapons at him. "Leave her alone. Take me instead." "The brave male wants to be a hero," Velzik said with his terrible laugh. "You will get your turn soon enough, but first, we learn what the young one knows." The soldiers dragged Jiwoo away from her friends. She looked back at them with scared eyes but tried to stay brave. "I will be okay," she called out. "Do not worry about me." Minho watched helplessly as they took Jiwoo down a long hallway. "What do they want from us?" he asked quietly. "Information," Hannah replied. "They think we are spies sent to learn about their empire." The questioning room was worse than the cells. Strange machines covered the walls, and a metal chair sat in the middle with wires and tubes connected to it. Bright lights made everything look harsh and scary. Velzik pointed to the chair. "Sit down, little insect." Jiwoo's legs were shaking, but she walked to the chair and sat down. She would not let these monsters see how afraid she was. "Our computers found something interesting when they scanned your ship," Velzik said as he attached metal devices to Jiwoo's head. "You have been studying old languages from this planet, languages that most people forgot long ago." "I study all languages," Jiwoo said. "It is my job as a scientist." "No, this is different. You understand words that were written on ancient stones we found in the deep caves. Words about old weapons that could destroy entire star systems." Jiwoo's eyes went wide. She had seen those symbols in her research, but she never knew they were from Valthros. The patterns were beautiful and complex, unlike anything humans had ever created. "Tell me what the symbols mean," Velzik demanded. "I do not know," Jiwoo said honestly. "I can read some of the patterns, but not all of them." Velzik pressed a button on one of his machines. Pain shot through Jiwoo's head like lightning. She screamed and her body went stiff in the chair. "That was just the beginning," Velzik said calmly. "The pain will get much worse if you do not help." Meanwhile, far below the prison, something huge was moving in the ancient caves. Fallon, the dragon who had been sleeping for thousands of years, felt the girl's pain like a knife in his own mind. Dragons were different from other creatures. They could sense the emotions of living things around them, especially strong feelings like fear and pain. But this was the first time Fallon had ever felt the emotions of a human. The dragon's golden eyes opened fully for the first time in ages. Human feelings were strange and powerful. They burned brighter than any other creature's emotions that Fallon had ever sensed. Back in the questioning room, Velzik increased the power of his torture machine. Jiwoo screamed again, louder this time. Tears ran down her face, but she still would not tell him what he wanted to know. "The ancient weapons must be found," Velzik said. "My empire needs them to conquer the other star systems. You will help. US find them, or you will die slowly." "Even if I could help you," Jiwoo said between gasps of pain, "I would never give weapons to someone like you." This made Velzik very angry. He turned the machine up higher. Jiwoo's screams echoed through the prison halls. Reaching the cells where her friends were trapped, Do-yeon hit the metal bars of his cell with his fists. "I will kill him," he said through his teeth. "I will kill them all for hurting her." "Hana!" felt tears in her eyes as she listened to Jiwoo's suffering. The girl was so young, barely out of school, and now she was facing torture that would break most adults. Deep underground, Thalen felt something he had never experienced before. The dragon's ancient heart began to beat faster. His massive claws dug into the cave floor as waves of protective anger washed over him. For 10,000 years, Thalen had not cared about the affairs of younger races. Dragons had tried to help the galaxy long ago, but the other species always fought and killed each other, no matter what dragons did. So the dragons had gone to sleep, waiting for the galaxy to grow up. But now this small, brave creature was suffering, and Thalen found that he could not ignore it. Something about human emotions was different. They felt deeper, stronger, more real than the feelings of other species. The torture continued for hours. Velzak tried different machines and different kinds of pain, but Jiwoo would not break. Even when she could barely speak, she refused to help the Kraxith find their ancient weapons. "You are stronger than you look, little insect," Velzak said with respect in his voice. "But everyone breaks eventually. Tomorrow we will try something new. Something that will make today feel like a pleasant dream." As the guards dragged the barely conscious Jiwoo back to her cell, Thalen made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. The dragon began to move through the deep caves, heading toward the surface for the first time in thousands of years. Something terrible was about to happen, and it would all begin with 15 minutes of pure rage. The small research ship moved slowly through the dark space around planet Valthros. Dr. Hana looked out the window at the green and brown world below. She had been waiting 3 years for this chance to study alien life forms on this distant planet. "Everything looks good down there," said Minho from his seat at the communication controls. He was young for a space mission, only 25 years old, but he was the best at understanding alien signals that Earth had ever trained. Do-yeon checked his weapon systems one more time. As security chief, he never felt comfortable on new planets. Too many things could go wrong. Too many ways for humans to die far from home. He was 32 and had seen enough dangerous missions to know that peaceful planets could turn deadly fast. "The readings show lots of plant life, but very few animals," Hannah said as she studied her screens. "This should be a simple collection mission. Get some samples, take some pictures, and head home." In the back of the ship, 19-year-old Jiwoo was reading everything she could about alien languages. She was the youngest person ever chosen for a deep space mission. Her brain worked differently than most people. She could understand alien words and sounds that confused even the smartest computers. "Dr. Hana," Jiwoo called out, "I am seeing some strange signals from the planet's surface. They look like they might be from intelligent life." Hannah turned around in her chair. "What kind of signals?" "They are not natural. Someone or something is making them on purpose. But they are not like any language we have seen before." Do-yeon moved closer to look at Jiwoo's screen. "Could be dangerous. Maybe we should call this mission off and go back to Earth." "No," Hana said firmly. "This is exactly what we came here to find. If there is intelligent life on Valthros, we need to make contact. This could change everything for humanity." The ship began to shake as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Minho worked hard to keep them on course toward the landing site they had chosen from space. The green forest looked peaceful from above, but the air was thick and made flying difficult. "Landing site coming up in 2 minutes," Minho announced. But as they got closer to the ground, Do-yeon's security system started making warning sounds. "We have company," he said with worry in his voice. "Multiple ships approaching fast from the east." 3 dark metal ships came out of the forest like angry insects. They were bigger than the human research vessel and covered with weapons. Strange symbols were painted on their sides in bright red. "Are they trying to communicate with us?" Hana asked. Mido listened to his equipment for a few seconds. "Yes, but it is not friendly. They are telling us to land immediately or they will shoot us down." "We should run," Do-yeon said as he powered up their weapons. "Our ship is fast. We might be able to escape back to space." But before anyone could decide, bright energy beams shot out from the alien ships. The beams hit the human ship's engines and sent it spinning toward the ground. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the cabin. "Hold on, everyone," Minho shouted as he tried to control their crash landing. "This is going to be rough." The ship hit the ground hard and slid through the dirt and rocks for what felt like forever. When it finally stopped, smoke was coming from the engines and several systems had failed. Do-yeon was the first to recover. He checked on the others and was relieved to find that everyone was alive. "We need to get out of here fast. Those ships will be landing soon." Through the broken windows, they could see the 3 alien ships setting down near their crash site. Tall figures in dark armor began walking toward them. They moved like soldiers who had done this many times before. "Dr. Hana," Jiwoo said quietly, "I can understand some of their language. They are calling us insects. They think we are not intelligent. Can you talk to them?" Hana asked. "Maybe explain that we come in peace?" Before Jiwoo could answer, the aliens reached their ship. One of them, taller than the others and covered in more decorations, spoke in a deep voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "Come out now, little insects, or we will burn you out." Do-yeon looked at his weapon, but there were too many aliens and they had much better equipment. "We don't have a choice," he said sadly. The 4 humans walked slowly out of their broken ship with their hands raised. The alien leader looked them up and down like he was examining strange animals. His skin was gray and rough and his eyes were completely black. "I am Commander Velzik of the Kraxif Empire," the alien said in broken human language. "You are in our territory without permission. This means you are either spies or thieves." "We are scientists," Hana said bravely. "We came here to study plant life. We did not know anyone lived on this planet." Velzik made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not pleasant. "All planets belong to the Kraxif Empire. All life belongs to us. You insects will come with us for questioning." The alien soldiers surrounded the humans and forced them to walk toward the ships. Do-yeon wanted to fight, but he knew it would only get them all killed. As they walked, Jiwoo noticed something strange. Deep underground, something very large was moving. She could feel it in her bones, like a heartbeat from the planet itself. Whatever was down there had been sleeping for a very long time, but now it was starting to wake up. Far below the surface of Valthros, in caves that had been dark for thousands of years, something ancient opened its eyes for the first time in ages. The creature had been dreaming of old times when the galaxy was different, when dragons flew between the stars keeping peace. The dragon called Fallon felt something new in its mind. A strange feeling came from the small creatures walking on the surface above. These were not like any life forms it had sensed before. There was something special about their thoughts, something that made the old dragon curious after so many years of not caring about anything, but curiosity would soon become something much more dangerous.